Okay, so let's start. I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So guys, welcome to a second student MuleSoft Meetup. And in today's session, we are going to discuss how to design the API using RAML basically. RAML is nothing RESTful API modeling language. Okay. So Nitish Raj will be the speaker for today's meetup. So he will going to deep dive into a REST API modeling language. So we like some safe harbor statement. So both speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity, and we are not representing our companies here. Basically, the present is strictly for the learning purpose only. The organizer presenter do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business requirement. The presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. Okay. So some housekeeping, like the recording of this meetup will be uploaded to event page within the 24 hours. You can ask the question at any time, like you can just enable your mic and you can ask the question. Even you can use the chat window basically, and we would like to make the session more and more interactive. At the end, like it's very important for you guys to provide a feedback, so you can just rate this meetup, like so we like you will receive one email where you will be receiving a feedback form link, so you can simply provide the feedback there, and this will help us in improving the further and future sessions. So organizer myself Jitendra Bafna. So like I am working as a senior solution architect at a EPM system, and having overall 14 years of experience, and I'm MuleSoft certified integration in the platform architect. Deepesh, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning, all. I welcomes you all for the second meetup. I'm Deepesh. I'm working as a senior consultant with Capgemini, and I have around 8 years of experience. That's it.
Nitish, I will hold your introduction for now. So Ravi, can you go next?
Hi, hello everyone. This is Ravi Tamada. I am an MuleSoft integration architect from Capgemini. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Yeah. So the speaker for today's meetup is again like Nitish Raj. So I will ask Nitish to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jitendra. Hey, everybody. Good morning. My name is Nitish Raj, and I have been in IT for last 7.5 years, out of which 6 years in MuleSoft itself. Yep. Sorry. So yeah, I'm all MuleSoft certified professional. So looking forward to deliver the session today. Thank you.
Yeah. So agenda is like for today's meetup, we will going to discuss about the RAML and what are the different components available with a RAML. So basically, RAML is used for your designing skeleton or specification of your API. Basically, then we will have a Q&A session. Then finally, we will have a trivia quiz. So we generally encourage like all the only engineering student and who are the fresher participate in the quiz basically. So we want like for this meetup we want like engineering student or any fresher win the voucher basically. Yeah. So Nitish, like you can take the session from here. I will just unshare my screen.
Sure, Jiten. Thank you so much. Jitendra, have you stopped sharing your screen? I still see it.
Can
Thank
it?
you. Yeah, it's great now. Let me know if my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, it's visible.
Uh, Thank you so much for that. All right, guys, good morning. Again, we'll start with the agenda. As Jitendra mentioned, like we'll be starting with RAML basics. Take you through about the what a URL looks like, and what are the resources, query parameter, URI parameter, along with other things like example, database, traits, and all this. So it might be very confusing for you now, but once we go ahead with it, it will be very clear, right? And one very exciting announcement that I have designed this particular slide and presentation in a way that even if you're appearing for any interview, right? Other than this knowledge, if you're appearing for an interview, most of the questions in RAML will be asked. Whatever basic RAML question would be asked from this presentation itself, right? So I have covered all this. So pay attention to it and ask questions if any doubts. Let's start. Okay, so agenda is the main topic is API design with RAML. Okay, so first of all, why you need RAML, right? Even before jumping on the conclusion that what is a RAML and what we can do with it, why we need RAML, right? So do you see this? What exactly is this? This looks like a probably a villa to me, right? A building. What would you require to build this, right? Apart from money, yes. Apart from money and labor and everything. At the architectural level, right? What would you need?
Blueprint of the structure.
Right. So blueprint of the structure here. So like when we have, say, when we wish to, go for construction of a building or our houses, what we do, like we hire a designer architect, right? They design where the kitchen would be, how the bedroom will look like, what would be dimension and everything. Correct? So you might have a question, what not? Like I have a house in village which did not have any blueprint, right? We just constructed it just like that. Probably yes, because you can go with that flow as well. So like you can go and just design this. I mean, construct this whole building without having a blueprint, right? So it's not required, it's not mandatory to create you this blueprint. But what happens is most of the modern buildings, most of the modern houses, and well planned and standard houses have this blueprint, right? So on top of it, we can go because if I have a bedroom of say 10 by 10 here, right? And what if at the end of the construction I'm left with some space or I have overconsumed some space, right? I cannot go and undo that. But what would happen if I had already this blueprint, right? So this makes you to stick to your blueprint, your design, so that you can design this beautiful home, right? Without having any hustle. So likewise, we'll start with RAML. I mean, RAML has your all the, before starting with that, let me take you through this URL nomenclature, right? What exactly a URL is. Like most of the times we are going to say google.com, amazon.in, amazon.com, all these websites, right? And making some purchases, doing some online shopping and everything. So it says the URL is made up of these parts. The first one is here protocol. So HTTP is a protocol. Okay, so this is a communication protocol which tells you that on which protocol your requests and response will be sent out and received on, right? So web browsers use this HTTP protocol when you see, right, HTTP or HTTPS slash colon slash slash www.google.com or facebook.com, anything, right? And then comes domain, right? Like api.mycompany.com. So instead of it, like you can think of www.facebook.com. That is its domain, right? The next one is path. So path is like um, if you're on Facebook page and you're going to have say your friend list, right? So it would be something like www.facebook.com/friends or your friend list, right? So that is kind of your path next to your domain here, right? Here. And this is application context, which is again, I mean, a path itself. The next one is version. So version, as we go ahead with this, the uh, whole series of your meetups, you will get to know what a version look like and how when we do versioning and not, right? So version is basically you do versioning of APIs, like version one, version two. Suppose if you have a mobile phone, Android on iPhone, right? When you download some application, you see its version is 1.0.1316 something, right? So that is kind of version, how many versions our company has released already. And then next, last one is here, which is a key value pair, right? You can say it at the key value pair here. It could be anyway denoted by your curly braces or the question mark. This is possibly a query string, right? So To give an example of this, suppose you go to Amazon.in and you search for, say, iPhone 13 or iPhone 12, right? So you're searching for a phone on Amazon website, right? So that is your query string here. Okay, we will discuss it in thorough. Let's go ahead. Talking about the RAML basics, we talk about the URL, what is an URL, how it looks like. Talking about the RAML basics now, okay? So first of all, I think Jitendra mentioned it already that RAML stands for RESTful API modeling language. Why RESTful? Because since now, I mean, since until now itself, a couple of months before, RAML was only used for RESTful API modeling language. So just to make, for the sake of simplicity, I'll just say it stands for RESTful API modeling language, and you can only create REST APIs specification out of it. And what are the REST APIs? So language to define specification for HTTP based APIs, right? So as I just explained, if you're having an HTTP based APIs, okay, and you want to have a specification. What is specification? Specification means a blueprint of your API, that how it will look like, what will be a request response. Like you are sending say 123 as a request, you are getting the response as Apple iPhone 13 or say jacket shirt or anything. Okay, and it's based on YAML language. So YAML is yet another markup language. It is based off uh, this is again based on key value pairs, and this all the key value pairs and it nodes of YAML has parent and child relationship. Okay, I'll show you that how. Then last comes, it is used to create a mutual contract between API consumer and API provider. Okay, so what does that mean? So if I'm using a web browser, right, who is the API consumer here? I am a API consumer, right? If I'm consuming the APIs of Google, or think of example of Google Maps, right? So Google Maps have say APIs in behind of all the same, right? So the API provider of the Google Maps will be Google, and the consumer is who? I as an individual, right? So Google can come with a contract. So like, hey, if you want to go from point A to point B, if you want to locations, you need to pass me your current location and your destination location, right? Most of the times we do that, current location, destination. So from point A to point B. So what happens is like we are, if we want to have some destination from A to B, we like Google Maps, we want to send Google with our current location and the destination location, right? So your contract will define what are the resources, or what is the resource, how the request will look like. I just explained request, like, right, response and the security and everything. Like it will have each and everything of how your API will be behaving. It might not be clear to you yet now, but it will be. Go ahead. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Okay. So this is on the right side. If you see API specification, right? So once you learn this API, how the API specification is being carried out in RAML. So this is again a kind of sub steps. Excuse me. Sub steps inside your RAML, like you design the RAML first, right? So you'll be designing the API specification using RAML, right? Then you'll be simulating it. What does that mean, simulate? So like once you have created your dummy requests, dummy responses, your resources and everything, you can actually see how it goes, like how it is working, how it is behaving. That is called simulating. The next one is feedback. So this will be, helpful for you when you are working on, say, real-time projects. So once you design it, you have saw you, all the dummy response and everything. You get the feedback from your stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Like your seniors, your client, and everybody. They can see, yes, this particular API is exactly how we expected it to be, and then you validate it, and then your API specification is completed here. So we'll be taking you through the design phase and simulation phase here. Okay. The next one is the query params and URI params. This is very important slide. in terms of your day by day RAML whenever you will be writing it, plus in your interviews as well. So what exactly a query param is? So query params are basically used to sort or filter on a given set of resource or records. What does that mean? So for example, so you have an employee database, right? Or let me take to the employee database as well. So suppose I just created this. Okay, so this is your employee database, right? Employee ID, name, salary designation, location. If somebody wants you to search for all the um, employees which has location of Delhi, right? So you can see you need to pass out location because you need to find out all the employees whose locations are Delhi, right? So here it says find all the whose designation are workers or probably locations are Mumbai or Delhi, right? So because it will give you all the kind of, it can give you one employee, it can give the multiple employees, right? If you had it has one employee, it will give you just one. If it has multiple n employees, it will give all those details. So how do you define this query parameter in a URL? Like we see URL nomenclature, right? So what you can do is you have this endpoint till here. This part employs your resources, like we said path. And this designation equal to worker, and you can define this question mark defines it as a query parameter because you're searching for something, you're sorting or filtering for something. This question mark designation and worker, right? So this is again denoted by your question mark key and value pair. I hope this is clear. And what is a URI parameter? So I come to you again and I say, hey, that is fine. You gave me this all the employees. Now I want one employee whose employee ID is one, right? So most of the times in databases, every time data in databases, you'll have a say primary key, right? Primary key is something which defines a particular row uniquely, like employee ID one. So the another employee cannot have the same employee ID. So if you're passing employee ID is one, you will be receiving only one single employee. Okay. So the URI parameters comes handy in that these particular scenarios where you need to access a specific resource or a record. For example, find distinct employee for employee database using employee ID. Okay. So how do you define that? What is syntax? Syntax is this. In curly braces, you define your key or your field name, right? Let's stick to key here. So it's access using curly braces and it's access using question mark and ampersand. I mean, if we have multiple query parameters to send here. Any questions still here in query parameter and URI parameter? Wait for 5 seconds and we'll move on. If you have any questions, you can just put down in chat box as well. All right. So in the REST world, REST APIs world, it's very standard and it's very usual to know about all the HTTP methods and response codes, right? So I'm not going to tell you about each and everything here, but at the just this level. So HTTP methods is basically, excuse me, used to, you know, used to access a particular resource. Like if we have HTTP get method, what exactly get does? So like if you want to fetch resources from a given set of resource, right? Example I gave here, fetch employees from employee database, right? So when even if you are having say it by using query parameter, URI parameter, you can use get. The response code will be 200. It doesn't matter. I mean, it actually matters if you are giving the response code, you're setting the response code at 200. You might ask, hey, why not 201, 203, anything, right? You can give any response code, but HTTP methods, although this REST API principles has some standards. So if you're using any get methods anywhere, you should have the response code 200 for success responses. And if it is get method is throwing any error, either it's say client error or server error, you want to show the caller with that particular HTTP response code, right? The next one is post. This is very again important one. Like whenever you want to create a new employee in employee database, you want to use post, right? The response code for it will be 201, right? Because you are using post, you cannot, you should not use 200. Can you use 200? Yes, you can, but it's not standard, right? So stick to the standards. You'll be a great developer. Next one is put. What does the put means here? So put is basically create or update an existing resource, like updating an uh, employee details, right? So put here means it's just not updating. So suppose you are sending employee ID one again, right? And employee database has one already. And in salary it was 50,000, but you are making 60,000, right? So what it will do is it will first search for employee. If it is there, it will just update that, right? If it is not there, it will just create that. I mean, this will happen. Post will happen if it is not there, and the patch will happen if that particular resource is already there. That's why response code 200 and 201. The last one is patch and delete. Patch is basically used for only update. I just explained it in this put itself. So updating an employee salary could be a great example. Response code will be 200 and delete. When you want to delete, say one of the employees from your database, right? So here are some HTTP response status code. It starts with 1 2 3 4 5, right? Most of the times if you're going on say google.com and you're searching for something, if you do not find it, right, what happens? You get 404 page not found, right? So it's like client error responses 404. Who is client? We are the client who is searching for any resources. And why we get 404? Because 40, because whatever we have searched for, that doesn't exist on the web server, right? Excuse me. What if server is down? What if Facebook is down sometime and you're using it from browser? You'll be getting something from 5. This here means XX means it is dynamic. It could be 500, 501, 502 till 599 here. Okay. And then HTTP error status codes. There are some I have just mentioned most common here. 401, 404, 500 till 503 service unavailable. Okay. Let's go to a demonstration part. So at the demonstration part, I mean, yes, if you do not have any endpoint platform account yet, what you can do is like you can just navigate to this particular login sign up for Anypoint MuleSoft and just sign up for you for 30 days free trial account, right? And once you're good with that, you have logged in, go to Design Center. How to do that? Let me show you that. So once you have logged in, you'll be landing up on the home page. On your left side, three dashes will be there on the extreme left up. Click on the Design Center from the options. First in Design Center. And what is exactly Design Center here? We talked about RAML, right? Like RAML is used for creating the specifications, how do and the YAML format, right? So where do we create all these specifications? We create on this Design Center. As it name suggests, Design Center is used for designing your RAML specifications and other things as well. We'll see. So just log in and click on Design Center. Once you have Design Center open, you'll see this project panel here where you have all the project. If you have already created any, right, you'll see this create new button here with a plus sign. Just click on it and you will see some options here: new API specs, new fragment, new mail API, new sync API. This was added October last year. And then you can import a file if you like. If you already created any specification or fragment, you can import from here, right? So what we have to do is like we are creating an API specification. So this is the first one, new API spec. Click on it. Excuse me, sorry, I'm down with fever. Next one is API. I mean, this will dialog box will be shown to you to provide with this API title, right? So what will be the API title? It could be based on your requirement that you are working on, right? So suppose I'm just getting with this employee ID that I have created 5 employees here. So I'll be just going and creating my API title in the sentence casing. So what is sentence casing normally? So this is my sentence casing. My first words, the starts with capital space and goes on, right? So employee API. And now there are two radio buttons. One is guide me through it, and another is I am comfortable designing it on my own. So I'll just leave it at default, and we'll see what is there in my drop-down menu. So RAML 1.0 is the latest version of RAML. We have another version which is I think coming up, not yet released. Then RAML 0.8 is the earlier version. You might be, if you're working on any client projects from banking side and everything, right? You might be working on the previous version of RAMLs. And then we have OS as well. We won't talk about this here right now. So just go with the RAML 1.0 and click on Create API Specification. Okay. So this will create a root RAML file for you to have you all your request response, input outputs, your error responses, everything. Okay. So if you see here, right? So it changes it to the kebab casing. Employ API.raml, which says it's a root raml, right? So this will be a root raml is this is the main file which will have all your input outputs, your resources, what are the resources, we'll see. Okay. Now it starts with a top level element saying hash, sorry, percentage raml 1.0. What does it mean? It means it is describing its um, version here, your title, whatever you had given it right now, right? And you can define any other things as to, like, if you want to define its version, probably you can go and just hit the version here. Okay. Okay. So before that, I forgot one thing. Yeah. Before that, let me describe what exactly is this, right? This page inside the design center. What exactly happened? This is your on. Let's start from left side. This is your project explorer, right? If you have used any IDE into development environment or any tool for that, like in Eclipse or something, you might have an ID for it, right? And you have the project explorer on the left, where all your project folders and your files will be showing up to you, right? So this is there, and I can go and create files and folders which will be shown here, right? And these are two options, which says file and other is exchange dependency. We'll talk about this later. Here, this is where you write your RAML. Okay, you can go and write your RAML, and on this side and bottom side doesn't show anything, but it's something. If I just, okay, do you see? I just typed VE, it show me the version, kind of, right? So what you can, this is the shelf. Shelf is something, if we are, it helps you to type the RAML. So it will show you all the things, your requests, I mean your responses, bodies, HTTP methods that you saw, right? Each and everything. So it will give you the this kind of intelligent shelf that you, or whatever you go and write, or whatever you are going to write next, it will show you each and everything here itself. So you can just choose any desired component from this one. So I'll just go say version, I'll say this v1, version 1, right? And this is on the right side, you have API console. What is the API console here? So the whatever you write here, okay, whatever you write here, it will be shown here. So I wrote employee API, it is here. API title version I wrote, it's version v1, right? So it will be shown here. So let's start let's start building our RAML, right? So we'll be starting with the creating one of the resources based on this employee database itself, right? So employees table. So first rule of resources, creating a resources is whenever you create a resource, it has to be, if it is a noun, it has to be noun. What does a noun means? So suppose I have seen most of the people, not most, I have seen so many people writing, say, if I ask them to create, hey, create a resource for employee, what they do is like they'll say get employees, right? Get employees or probably post employees. So you don't have to do this, right? You don't have to mention, it's not a verb. You cannot mention the verb like get post in your resource itself. What you have to do is like you have to give a very clean name of a noun, right? Employees and in a plural sense, right? To give me employee to um, that won't be standard. You just say give to the employees, right? Because employee is a noun, you can give a plural, say employees. But what if you have to give a search? Would you ask, hey, can I give searches? No, it's not a noun. So you want to give searches. Search is fine, right? Or login. Or login is just fine. So this is again a very crucial thing that I just told you. So every time just start with the proper noun with the if it is a noun, just name it in the plural sense, right? Employees. I have created one employee, right? What is next? I just typed, okay, it starts with forward slash and your name and semicolon, this one, colon, right? If I don't give colon, it will give me the error here, right? So colon, that is error is gone. You'll see the API endpoints is here. And before that, you can create one base URI as well. What is the base URI on which this particular API will be, you know, exposed on? So like, let me just give anything here right now. Uh, Okay. So just hit enter. When you hit enter, you'll see it has left a space or it has space for you, right? Why is that? Because as I told you, the RAML specifications are based on YAML language, and what YAML is, it's based on key value pairs, and it has a child and parent and child relationship. So you declare the parent here, right? Whatever declared inside it, it will be children for the employees. Okay. Then how I do again? So if you see at the left side, you are presented with all the STD methods, right? What I want to do is like, first of all, I just want to get all the employees, no matter what is their designation or location, anything, right? I'll I want to get all of it. So just type get, or you can just click on it here, right? I just typed get, and it will give you option to go and create the get all here. But what I'll do is like, I just say post to, right? If I want to go ahead, I can say patch, put, I can say delete, right? If you see, it will be shown here, API endpoints employee. So employees have the get, post, patch, put, delete, all the HTTP methods, right? So I think this you can do it as your homework, delete, put, and patch. I'm just deleting it from here. Okay, let's go to get. So if you just hit enter, you will have a space here again, since get is now a parent of whatever you will be defining it here as a child, right? So excuse me. So under get, what you can do is like you just define the responses, right? Because I'm not going to send any query parameter or URI parameter here. I just want to get all the employees. And what would be the HTTP method for you? If anyone can tell me. I see there is 100 to 234 everything. So what
200.
should be my great?
200.
It will be 200, and I'm expecting some body as well. But what is body? In responses, we get the body. Like if I'm getting all this, okay, so this should come in the say JSON format or XML format in a body itself, right? So I'll be defining the body, and what is next? As explained, it should be in JSON, XML, or some other data types, right? So I'm going with a JSON one. And see, I don't have to write anything, right? I can go and write, but what I'm doing is like once it is going forward, they're just showing me all the parameters, all the next most suitable parameters in the shelf itself, where I can go and just click on it, right? So I came to this application JSON format. Now what? I need to give some thing, because I told you this is the dummy responses that will be giving out, right? And the dummy responses that I can create is out from this particular thing itself. So what I can do is I need to have one example. Okay. So I just created an example here, right? And let me just say employees returned. What I did is I did not give any actual example. So example here means how your application JSON will look like when you return all the employees from here, right? So I just written it down here as particular normal string. Okay. Since it will be JSON, it will be formed in a JSON employees return. Okay. Let's see how. So we talked about designing it, right? Next one was simulating. What simulating means. If you see on the right side on your API console level, you have the API endpoints get and post. I have created get, right? I want to check it out, like how it will behave, what response I'll be getting. Again, this is my response. What response I'll be getting. So let me go to the get one. I click here, right? You click here. You see the select server. You have the mocking server and everything, right? So I told you like this base URI will be acting as the actual web service that will be exposed to from drop down. Just select mocking service because I have not deployed anything on my local host. Okay, so mocking service, and you have this try it option. Try it option means when you click on this try it, you can actually see what will be a request URL. This is auto generated by Design Center. Okay, and just click on the send button, right? What response you'll be getting? You'll be getting 200 and employees return in JSON format, right? Here. So I got 200, okay, response, employees returned, right? What if I want to respond with proper JSON format with 1 or 2 employees, right? What I can do is there comes uh there comes examples part. In agenda we had examples, right? We'll be seeing about examples. So what exactly examples are? So for examples, what I'll do is I'll create one example here and I will include it in line here so it can show me all the employees or half of the employees here in my this particular response, right? Let's go and see how we can do it. So for that, you can define it inline here, but most going by the standard, we should do it in other folders which can be reused, right? So create a new folder, click on this plus sign, create a new folder and just type down examples. Okay, a folder will be created inside that. Create, click on new file. For the examples, what you can do is you can go and create one example here. I mean, these are all the fragments. What are fragments are like smaller part of your API specification, right? You're creating an API specification here, and then what are the fragments? Because the fragments are like API specification is made up of multiple fragments, right? Traits, resource type, libraries, all this. Example. So example is one of the fragments, but what we are doing is we can create example here, which will be in a RAML format, right? But for this time saving, I'm doing is I'm creating in a JSON format, so we can look at it and we can do it quickly. Okay, so I'm not using RAML 1.0, but I'm using other. And you have the file.json. You can change this name. I'm saying not examples. I'm saying employees example, right? Employees example.json. You need to see the coding standards as well. I'm using camel casing, right? Just click on create. Now it gives you this window to go and put this down. Okay, so I'm copying whatever I already get in the JSON format. It's an array with 2 objects, one, employee two. Oops. Employee one, employee two. So this is my employee one, employee two. It will be there. Okay. I'm just pasting it. I pasted it, right? So if you see, it has same structure that I pasted in a JSON format, but right? What now I need to put it here, right? How can I do it? Examples and this one. Can I write directly examples response, not example response, employees response. Can I write it here directly? Nope. What if I go and just write? See, I'm getting this particular string, but I'm getting this JSON that I have created here. No, why? Because I'm not given the proper syntax to include this example in my root RAML file, right? For now, I'm just removing this one. So for that, the syntax is very important. It can come uh, handy for for you in future as well. So the syntax is exclamatory mark, right? If you just uh, write exclamatory here, you'll see include. So this is a keyword to include all the files and folders from your files and folder section into a root file. Okay, say include, and we have to include from the examples folder, right? So you just type down example, it will show. And again, it will show you all the JSON or all the files underneath it. But I have only one single file, example. Okay, so I'm good with that. I just included it, right? Okay. What now? Can I try it? Yes, let's go and try. I should be getting all the response in JSON format, right? See, I got the response. So when we are going to actually implement this API in our studio, right? I'll be getting uh, actually I'll be getting something like this, right? So why should not I give the dummy response in my specification like this? Because what we are doing, we are creating a specification, right? Yeah. What now? This is done. What now? So let's go to the post section, and I'll okay, let's complete this get section first. So now you told me, okay, hey, this I got all the employees, right? What if I want to get the employees based on the query parameters that I'm sending, right? Like you explained. For that, what you can do is under the get, if you just enter a space, you'll see the parameters here, headers, query parameters, right? Click on the query parameters. On the query parameters, you can define your query parameter name. I'm defining, say, designation. Okay, and hit enter. You'll see whether what should be the display name, your it can be example, minimum length, maximum length. So I'm not putting any display name or description here. I'm just going directly to uh, either it's required or not, right? So most of the time you will be dealing with this required true or not. I'm making it explicitly true just to show you. If you do not make anything required as a true, it will be required anyway, right? But if you want to require make it required false, it will you have to write it explicitly. Okay. And do you want to send the minimum length of it? Yes. If designation is 5, I do not want to you know um, have somebody send just 2 letters word or something. Okay. And yep, that is, so you have defined this, right? You have defined this query parameter responses. Now what happens now? Let me go to here. I have come here, right? Can I get all the, since it is required, right? Can I get the can I get the designation, all the employees based on their designation? Yes. Just type there. So it will be shown that how you can send the designation parameter and send this. You'll get the same response because I am giving the same response here, right? So this was to show how you can define the query parameters. You can define another query parameter here. Okay, let me go ahead and write it. You can just define any other query parameter like salary. So you'll be having two query parameters here, right? Likewise, so I'm just deleting this. Now you get the query parameter part, you get all the employees part. What now? If you want to get one, sorry. So next, let's jump to post directly. I'll just skip the URI parameter. You can, or I can do it from for the past because I need to show you something else too. So let's go to the post one. How the post works, right? So the post will work, right, whenever you want to create a new employee, right? So let's give me a description. Description could be create new employee, right? And in post, you'll be sending the body every time, right? Whenever you want to create a employee, you will be sending the body, right? So you have sent the body here, and it should be an application JSON format. And what should be it? Example, all right? So example would be again, can I send this particular, like, can I send multiple employees at once? No, I just want to send one single employee. So what I have to do with that, I need to create one example again. Okay. So let me just take this here. I'll create one new file in the same other and the file JSON where I'll say single employee, which is employee example.json. I pasted it here. I'll be creating a new employee with employee ID 6, name this and everything, right? Now go to your main file and include it. How do you include it? Include examples and you'll get two now, right? So I want to use employee example.json. Can I post it now, right? Yeah, I can go and post, but I have not defined any responses and everything, right? So let me go and define the responses. So responses will be your exactly the same level of your body, right? So you define body here, you'll be defining the responses just right below it. Responses. For post, you are defining, right? So what would be a response? We saw it in your our HTTP status codes. What should be status code for post method here? Anybody?
201.
Okay. Yes, 201. What is next? So you'll be getting some body from it, right? You just what is happening? An application JSON format, and it should have an example, right? So example should be, say, I've just written a employee created successfully. Okay, right. Let's go and post this. Try. You have cleared on post. This will be format that will be shown that you have mentioned it in example of sending, right? Send it, you get 201, sorry, employee created successfully, right? What now? So suppose what if somebody comes and tries to send this employee ID 6 as not as an integer but a string? What happens? Will still create this employee, right? I mean, there is nothing that we have defined based on a data type that it should be sending, right? It can send any data type. It can send employee ID 6 as a string, integer, number, salary as an integer again, work as nothing like 1, 2, 3, right? To bind that, what we do is we create the data types, right? So these data types are basically used for describing data for validation against data type. Like I showed you, right? Employee ID should be integer type, but somebody's sending you string, right? But still accepted and gave me 201. It should not be the case, right? I should be doing it correct that somebody's sending employee ID as string, it should not accept it. For what? For that, what you can do, you can create a data type. Okay. For data type, creating a data type, let's go and create a new folder, say data types, and you can have your data type here. Inside that, create one file, and the RAML one, it will be in. We are not going into JSON format. Okay, so and from drop down menu, specification have the specification as data type, and what you're creating employee, so it should be your employee data type, right? Or you can just define here employee. You can write data type. So if you see, write down type. So type is kind of a keyword here, so which mentions whether you're going to use object or what kind of request to validate this. Right, so I said object because I'm sending one single object. Properties is something like how many fields will be there, how your fields will look like in the key value pair, and I'm defining employee ID should be integer. I'm defining name, it should be string. Okay, I'm defining uh, designation should be string again. I am defining salary, it should be my number. Last one is I'm defining location, it should be string again. Okay, I've defined this, but I need to my main root file to enforce it. So if somebody is sending this one, it should not send if it's not validated, right? Just before example, you can just type and it will show. It will ask you to give the employee data type here. I mean, you can give that employee data type directly here using the include itself, right? So what I'm going to do is include from data type, spelling wrong, include data types, employee data type, right? I have given that. Let me go and now check. What if I send this 6? I'm sending the integer itself. It should be passed. It is getting passed. What if I'm giving it as string here? I'm sending now. So it says, hey, we have this validation error because invalid schema content type application. Okay, employee ID expected as integer but found string. So that's why we use data types, right? So that's why we use data types. And instead of you having the data types here, what you can do is you can define it as in this particular root RAML file, RAML itself. How you can do that? Let's say types, you can define all the type. I'll say employee, include, do the same thing. Okay, and I can use this employee directly here. So if I want to use it in other HTTP methods, I can just use directly from here. I don't need to write include data type each and everywhere, right? This is done. Now it will be same. 6, it is fine. Employee created successfully because I am given the right data type. Okay, so these data types are clear, examples are clear. Any questions in these two parts? Okay, so next one,
So what is the use of is keyword?
sorry, is keyword.
Yes.
You are going too far right now. We are yet to cover this is keyword. Is keyword is not used in examples or data types. It is used in traits. We'll see it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, hello Nitesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes. Audible.
Yeah. Can you show me like once employee example.json?
Mhm.
Because you have sent employee ID in the form of string. So my question is that okay. So if we okay. So when we are mentioning the data type, so we have to give data type accordingly.
Yes.
Yeah.
First thing is you define the data type, right? And if you're defining the data type, suppose this employee ID is integer, right? But if you're defining this example as, if you're giving example as 6 here, right? It will show you error because it will say, it won't show error, okay, here. But what we'll do is, it will say, hey, you have defined the data type is in this particular employee, which ID is integer, but you are giving the wrong here, right? It will say employee ID should be integer.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Excuse me, sir.
sure.
Sir, what if the data types that includes the all properties, if one of the properties is missing in the body, in the post method, then will it throw the error? Suppose we have not passed the location.
Yeah, let me show you. Do you see? Because if you remember, I had mentioned that if you're not in RAML, if you're not mentioning required equal to true explicitly anywhere, it will still be true. Okay. If you want to make it optional, what you can do is make it optional as a with a question mark. Okay. Yeah. I did not.
If we put the question mark after location, then it will be of required is false. In
Yes.
general. Okay, got it.
Okay. Any other questions? See, I made it optional. It worked. Okay. Great. Any other questions? We'll be going to the next part. All right. I don't see any questions. Okay. So till this part, I think API specification like we showed what are the resources, how you can use your HTTP methods, your HTTP responses, your query parameter, your data types and examples, right? The next is we want to have something, say, this particular API, this particular, say, only the get method have something like, client ID, client secret is required. There should be something like which I can, enforce at HTTP method levels, right? So for that, we have traits. What are the traits here? So traits are usable components again, which help to define attributes for HTTP methods such as cacheable, filterable, searchable, pageable, right? What those means, like, if you want to send the get method, right? And get method should only fetch 10 records at a time from database. You might define that get method response with a pageable trait, right? And other than that, apart from that, serving above purpose, a trait can be designed for almost each and everything, right? You can go and create a trait for response. You can create a trait for query parameter, where you can, this particular query parameter can be used in other methods. It's other resources or other nested resources, right? So I'm going to create a one trait which will enforce our API to use to Scholar to send client ID and client secret, right? So if somebody is not sending client ID, client secret details, so say get him to get the all the employees, it won't allow it to. Okay. So for that, I'll be just creating another folder here with the name traits. Hit enter. I have this trait. I'll just say, you can give a customized name. I'm just giving it, oh yeah, from this one drop down, click on create, and I'm giving an um, client details required. So it will show me this part, and I can go and create a trait here. So my trait, I want my caller to send this client ID and client secret in headers. Okay. What I can do is, let me just type headers. Should be um, client ID, and the client ID should be required. Yes. One second. Probably I'll just use another thing, which is, again, client secret. I'll just send client secret to save some time. Excuse me. That's it. I'm not sending. I can send client ID, client secret as well. Let me send anyway. So you can define it like that. So you have defined it a trait. You can use it anywhere you want in your root RAML file, right? And you can use it in any other fragments as well. We are not going that direction right now. So to make it simple, let's go to this root file and have this trait somewhere used. Okay. So to first of all, to use it, we need to define it, right? We need to define it somewhere. We did define in traits here. Now we need to include it. So to include it at the root level of my RAML file, what I'll do is I'll just type traits, and I can have all my traits here, right, under this trait node. What I'll do is I'll say I can give a name which is in a custom name. So I'm just saying client ID required. Okay. And what I have to do is I need to include, absolutely right. I need to include it from this part. So what I'll do is include from where, from traits and client details required.raml, right? So this is now included. I have defined it. I have included it. Now I need to use it. So to use it, what I can do, wherever you want to use, suppose I want to use at this get method level, okay, just at this level itself, next to get level method, what you can do is you can use a keyword is. Okay, so this is used to define all your types and traits. So we are dealing with the traits here, right? What we can do is define it as keyword, and you can use client ID, client secret. So I have provided an array. Why? Because I can have multiple traits to be, to be defined in this, under this particular employees and get method, right? I can have another one, either another one. Okay, I have one third one, and all it will go, right? Now it will show error because I have not defined anything. So I'm just defining one and I'm putting into an array. You can just put into a directly string itself, not a problem. But I know because I'm making it for reusability, so I can create an array and I can put all the strings here. Okay. So now let's go check it. I have defined it as client ID requirement. So let me go and check for post. Would I get the client ID and client secret in post? No, because I've only defined it for get. Okay. Sorry. Would I get it for get? Yes. Here in headers it says send client ID. I'm sending, send. What if I don't send? Okay, I'm getting all the response because I have sent it correctly. What if I don't send? Says values required, but currently it's blank. Okay, I'm sending because it's still giving me 200. Why? Because I've not defined anything else here. 400 or so, I have not made it correct. So that's like you can define client ID, client secret if you want to use it for your post method as well. You can go and put the is client ID required here. So it will use for your post method. It was not using previously, but now it will have. Okay. So yeah, and the states you can define the query parameter, you can define your responses, you can have like, searchable, pageable, like I explained, whether your response is filterable, your response that you're getting should be paged, like you should only get say 5 responses, 5 records at a time, 10 records at a time. So you can define all the traits inside that particular HTTP methods. Any questions still here? Get.
Hello Nitish. Hi, Manisha here.
Hi.
Actually, that content type we have not defined in threads like client ID required dot RAML. Then how we got that here in the preview window?
Sorry, where? I did not understand. You're saying this.
Um, yeah. In the content type we have not defined in threads file, right? Client ID required dot RAML.
Content file, which is a content file? Like we included this traits here, right? So this we gave a custom name. We can give any name here, right? And we included that from this traits file, right? This client details requirement. And now this particular custom name that we have given, we can use it using is keyword anywhere at any HTTP method level.
Okay. And why that array concept is required? Like
No,
we
it's
use.
not. It's not required. I explained, right? So if you want to have, say, I have another um, date here, client ID required, suppose new, right? What I can do is I can, and I want all these two traits to be defined for the employee get method. What I can do is I need to define into an array itself, right? If it
Okay.
is confusing it, let me just change. Let me just remove. Okay, you can do is just define it like that. That's it. It's a normal string. It will still work, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other question, guys? Okay, so let me speed up. We have a lot to cover now. So next one is security scheme. So security scheme basically it's a mechanism to protect your API from any other intruders in the form of different mechanisms like OAuth 1.0, 2.0. All these are mechanism of API security, right? So we'll be using this X other. What does it mean? So RAML has defined you and given an opportunity to you that you can define your custom security schemes, right? So for that, I'll be going and creating one security scheme here. So for that, let me go and create the folder security schemes quickly. And inside security scheme, I'll say In drop down, you need to define, you need to search for security scheme. You get the security scheme here. You can give a name. I'm saying custom security scheme again. Okay. In this custom security scheme, what I can do is I can define something as, if you just control in space, you'll see all the options that is given into security scheme, like OAuth, pass-through, basic authentication, and last one is X, which means is a custom one, right? So I'm going to use this custom one, and I mean, next to it, you can define however you like. So I'm saying X, say API key. That's it. Let's say X API key. That is it. So this is my uh, authentication method that I'm using security scheme. Okay. And next one is you need to define how this should be described. At what level should it be described at headers? Like somebody should send your API keys in headers where it should be, right? So for that we use described by keyword. So when you click on describe a keyword, you'll get to this point. And now you have headers, query parameters, query string response. So you can define into query parameters as well. Like you can define, say, in query parameter, how we are using it, question mark, right? Key and value pair. For headers, let me go through the headers. So if somebody wants to use my API, they should be sending this key into headers, right? And I'm going to, what my API key name should be. I'm just saying special token. Give any name. Okay, this type should be string. Okay, and that's it. If somebody is not sending it, I should be responding with some 401 unauthorized, something like that. You can give all the responses here. I'm not giving any responses. Okay, so I'm just making sure that if somebody is using my API, he should be sending special token in the headers, right? So let me go to the main RAML. And first of all, even before using it, what I'll do is I will include it here. And how to include? Just type security, you'll see security schemes. Okay, and you can define your security scheme name. So I'm just saying custom security. How to include it? Include from security folder. Which one? Security scheme level, right? This is done. Now where you wanted to use it, I am using, say, suppose I'm removing this particular client ID require, right? You can keep both, right? But if I want to only give the special token, so I'll be removing it here, and I can do is secured by. So suppose we are using is, right? We were having the keyword is for trades. For the security schemes, we have the keyword as secured by, right? And you can define the secured by key here by 1, 2, 3. Like you can give you can give n number of security schemes. What I'm giving it here itself as a string. What will be that? Custom security scheme, right? This one. It's not giving suggestion right now because it's not loaded. Okay, so you have given a custom security name. Now let's go. How does it make a change to your API? Designation, say, okay, anything, manager or whatever. Okay, you'll see API keys here. It's I think it's something wrong here. 1 second. Not showing anything too. I made something wrong here. 1 second.
Can you make the secure by at the top level, like
Yes. Yeah. Let me do that.
instead of defining at a resource level, you can do it at a top level, yeah, at a root level, yeah. Just
Something is wrong, I
that's
guess.
fine. That's fine. Like can you go just again refresh this?
Yeah. 1 second. We're out of time, right, Jitendra?
No, that's fine. Like we have more 15 minutes.
Okay.
Can you check now?
Okay, I don't know why it's not showing
No,
here.
can you show me that security schemes?
Yeah, I think I should have some response to.
Add a special token described by. Yeah, you have written with X, right? X is fine. Can we go to employee API.raml?
Yeah.
Security schemes, custom security include security schemes. Okay, and secured by, which is fine. Just a second. It looks good.
Yeah, let me just, meanwhile, I'll just have this responses to 401. If somebody is not sending it, should have the. Oops, something with Design Center today. Nope. Okay, meanwhile, what we did is like we define a security stream, a scheme here, right? And we included at security scheme node and we secured. So this is used to like wherever we want to use. So here, as we mentioned, secured by at the whole root file level itself. So the whatever resources, methods inside it will be there. It will be,
You
yeah.
like you made one mistake there. Like, can you just after secured by, can you just remove this custom security scheme?
Uh-huh.
Just remove this. Just remove this. Just say enter and put space. One day, no, no, not two space, only one. Like tab. Instead
Okay.
of space, you can put tab. No, can yeah. Now you put the name dash and this name. Yeah.
No, no, I think something is wrong because we can define multiple security scheme and
Yeah,
so I
that is
just
true.
yeah.
No. This is wrong. Check now.
What happened?
Something is not getting refreshed.
Hmm. Say server error. Oops. Meanwhile, it when it comes
Yeah, you
back,
can go. You can go ahead. Like
yeah. So we defined about this one security schemes. It wasn't showing at the placeholder to put in security holder. I mean the security scheme API key, because I think something is there wrong with Design Center not say server error too. Okay, so we defined this one last one custom, right? So what you can do is like you can define at the root file level itself, or you can define at the resource level as well, right? So any question for security schemes, anybody? And I made the difference between is and secured by keyword. So like is used to use include your types and traits, and security schemes you can use by secured by keyword. Any questions still here?
Nitesh, what difference? Hi, this is Aditya. So, what
Yeah.
difference will it make if I define that header which you used for security schemes
Mhm.
inside the trait?
No, it won't make any. See, the only thing is, the traits you can use for traits, like it's not just about security schemes, right? So traits you can use as a security scheme, as a response, a query parameter, or anything, right? So the traits is basically is used as a fragment where you can define each and every other fragment as a trait. The security scheme here, it's basically it's a giving the standard as a at the root RAML file itself. When you see, right, when we use the drop down menu from you selecting the security scheme, it gave you the security scheme word, right? So it defines and it makes a contract as a fragment of security scheme that you can use this particularly security scheme at any level, right? If you want to define say security scheme secured by, you can have the security scheme only. But if you want to use trait, you want to have is keyword. That is the main difference. I mean, apart
No,
from
syntactically
using
it
it.
is okay.
Yeah.
Using the trait is for the trait and secured by
Ye-
for the this.
It,
But
it's not
Yeah,
just about syntactically. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
Jitendra is saying
Aditya,
something.
like I will tell you. So with threads, what happen like whenever you have some duplication of the code, right? It can be let's consider you have a multiple APIs. So for multiple APIs, you can have a duplication of response code, right? So you may like let's consider 404, 400, 500. You know, so this code you will going to define for each and every resources within your RAML, right? Instead of writing that duplication of code, you can move that code to the threads, right? And you can use the threads in the your main RAML, right? So like whenever like if you have any query parameters, whenever you have any headers basically, right? The duplication of headers which you will going to use across your multiple resources in your RAML, that you can move into the threads, and like you can use the thread into your main RAML, right? So basically with thread, like it's kind of functions, right,
Mhm.
where you are just writing a duplication, like like where you're writing the code which will avoid the duplication basically, right? And you can call that function into your main RAML using is keyword. Whereas in security schema, like we are defining like what kind of authentication mechanism or what kind of security parameter will be used by API basically, right? So that we are defining using a security schemes basically. So like it doesn't mean like if you are defining any authentication type using security scheme, like you can have a client ID and the client secret as a header parameter, you can have a client ID and the client secret as a query parameter. So you are defining those structure or those skeleton in the security schema. It doesn't mean like it will going to validate the client ID or client secret or any token or anything. It will just validate the metadata whether the client ID and the client secret is coming in the request or not. But for like for validating actual client ID and client secret or any token, you need to apply the policy at the API manager level.
right. So basically, I understand that it's only defining that these are the headers we are using for the in this case, in this scenario, these are the headers we are using for security, and these are just the traits which are just used for the reusability across the resources or across the methods, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but functionally defining the secured by, it doesn't make any difference functionally, right? Here we have to apply the policy only, then only it will be difference.
Correct, but at least like it is very important, like let consider like you are giving your API to be consumed by some other like third party or any other developer, right? So he should know like what is the authentication mechanism used on this particular API, right? So we are defining that authentication mechanism, we are defining the skeleton, like this is the authentication parameter we require for this particular API, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, like for validating you need to apply the policy. It
Yeah.
just we are defining the metadata basically. So this like this is my API and this is the specification, this is the authentication mechanism for my API basically. So like this like whenever the request come, it will just check whether the client ID and the client secret is coming or not, but it will not actually validate the client
Right.
ID and client secret. For that you need to apply the policy.
Saying means understood completely and agree also. Just mentioning if my understanding needs to be corrected anymore. So in the headers also I can define client ID and client secret as the required parameters and take that header as a trait, or I can take that header as a security schema. So it is more appropriate to define that header in the security schema rather
Correct.
in the trait, right?
You can do with rate also, but if you are going with best practice, right? So you go with the security schema. If you want to define any authentication or authorization mechanism, then
Yeah.
go with the security schema, as simple as that.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you both of you.
Excuse me, sir. Nilesh here.
Hello,
Hello.
yes. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, we talk about the security schema and security token, client ID and client secret a few minutes back.
Uh-huh.
So we have created the client ID and client secret, right, in the header section. That
Right.
was the required, right? And then we included in the APS that what we can say resource,
Main
right?
remote. Yeah, yeah.
Then it will not be checking if we pass anything like ESD, SSD, or something
No, no,
we
no.
pass,
Okay.
then it will not be validating. Na?
No, so first of all, you can make it validate, right? But we are not going till this part. So you can have your regex pattern to validate it, right? But since, as Jitendra mentioned, it is just a skeleton. How it will be validated at is the policy level, right? And the policies are enforced at the API manager level. We have not, covered that yet. We'll be covering it in future sessions, but yes, that will, the SSDS and anything, it won't be validated here, right? But you can make it validate using regex patterns in your RAML as well. But since it would have an external API policy, which will be enforced by your external feature that is called API manager, or it could be not just API manager, but your external uh, API security mechanisms as well, right? So it will be validated at that part. So we are just creating one API specification that, hey, it should be sending with designation in this particular string format. It should be sending with the API key or client ID, client secret, with this particular client ID as a field name and client secret as a field name, second field name of a header, right? So the values here doesn't matter, as it is just a skeleton or specification, right?
Guys, can we
Then
move ahead? Like we are running out.
Yeah,
okay, sir, got it.
sure. Okay, so next one that is here, I'll just complete in next 10 minutes. So next one is resource type, right? So what we did is, first I'll just give an example here. So what we did here is, if you see for the responses 200 here, right? We give the get response 200, we give the post response at 201, right? If I want to have say put patch delete all this, so I'll be making the responses, I'll be writing these responses again. I'll be writing responses again for 201, 200, and everything, right? So I'm writing the 4 line of code for each and every method. So suppose if I have 10 methods for different resources, I'll be writing at least say 40 line of code just to show these responses. How I can minimize that, right? What I can do, like I can just create one kind of external file folder here where I can define my response for 200 body and example, so I can define all this. And since this example will be dynamic every time, right, so I can define it externally. So how we can achieve that using a resource type? So it just, I give an example of response itself. It could be for anything, right? So what it says is resource types help to reduce or eliminate frequent repetitive declaration of resources, right? It could be resources as well. It could be of methods. So like for method, you can define get, put, pass, delete, all this, and if their responses as well. If you want to have, you can define their trades too, right? But for the sake of simplicity, again, we are just defining on the what do we say responses again, right? So it can be defined, used to define reusable patterns for your resources, methods, and what are the advantages I just told you. Like if I have 20 methods, it can go to for like 40, 50, or even 200 line of codes. You can just change it, or just have it into a single place where each and every method can use, right? So we'll be seeing it how we can do it. So let's go and create one new folder and name it resource types, right? And inside the resource type, I want to create a resource only for employees, right? I can create a dynamic resource which can be used for any of the resources, right? But I'm creating, since we are working on the employees only, I'm going to create only for employees. So what I can do is, from adding a new file, I can go and click on resource type, and here I can say employee only. Okay, employee resource type I should not have. So here what I'll do is, in the resource type, what I can do is, what's its usage? You can define its usage, right? Like it will be used for any of the items inside. Uh, so all the items inside employees or anything, right? About your resource name. You can give the description. Same, I'm giving the same description here. Okay. Or it will be used by, say, your collection name, right? So description, you want to have it dynamic, right? Because, right, so you are saying get method will be using it. It will be using by post method. It will be using patch method. Then how you want it to show is a dynamic. So to make it dynamic as a placeholder in RAML, you can define it using this syntax. Inside that, so this is again kind of defining a variable. Inside that, you can define a keyword saying resource path name. Okay, so the resource path name, if it using employees, it will have the employees here. So it will be used by employees. If it is accounts, it will say it will be used by accounts. So this is a variable which will be changed as per where you are using under which resource. Okay, so I'm defining only for, say, get methods here. You can have any other methods. So I'm defining it for get and only for responses. Okay. So for responses for 2001, I mean 200 only, what I'm doing is I was having this repetitive task, right? I was having this repetitive task, response to 200 body application JSON. An example, what I can do is let me just go and copy paste it here. But if you see this example, this will be only used for employees. What if I want to make it dynamic, so I can use another variable, right? How you can use a variable, right? So this resource path name is a reserved keyword, right? It can, if we are, this is a reserved key name, or you can also use any variable name as per your choice, like ABC XYZ, but you have to define it somewhere. You can you have to declare, sorry. So for example level, what I can do is this syntax is standard to define a variable. Inside that, what I can do is I'm saying example reference. Example reference. So what I can do is when I'm using this particular resource type, I can pass this example reference, and this particular, since this is a reserved keyword, it will be taken automatically by your RAML. And this we need to define. So let's go to employee api.raml, and at the top level of your main RAML file, you need to define the resource type first. Okay. How you can do that? Just type resource types like we did for security scheme traits, same, and just give a good name. So suppose I am giving, say, employee collection, or you can give any name, meaningful name, and include it. So I have included it here. Okay. So for now, I have not changed. If you say I have not changed it, it's still using the previous one, right? So let me go here. It's still using the previous one itself. If you see, okay. Now it's failing because we're not able to provide the API key. So for that, let me, for this sake of right now, I'm just removing this one, right? So we can go ahead with resource types. So I have defined the resource type here. I have included it. Now I want to use it. How can I do that, right? So for using that, one second. Yeah. For using that, what I can do is at the employees. So we have the get here, right? So here we defined for the get one. So I might be not requiring this get because I have already defined it. I will be using employee collection directly. Okay. Use it, just replace this get with employee collection. What does that mean? It means when you write employee collection, from this part to this part, everything is included, right? But this example reference is not included. How can you include that? One second. I think I removed. No, this will be. Need to define a type to type as well, right? And then you want to have employee collection, right? You have this employee collection. Now you need to define your example reference that you given there. And how you can do, because since it will be dynamic for each and everything, you need to define it here. Say example reference. Now you might want to include it, right? Because it will be distinct for each and every example. You're taking it from examples. This was get, so employees example. So what you did is you had written this many code from get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line, and it reduced only to 3 lines. And these 3 lines are just kind of including it, and you are defining the example reference that you had given. Okay. Now let's go and check if it is working fine, right? So it is for employee get. I'm going 1 second. I'll show it like that. Okay. See, I'm getting the same response, right? I'm getting the same response. So what I did is I reduced my code drastically. If I want to use this again, this till from this part to here, I can come and put into this post as well, right? If post is not is, I mean, I only did for get, I can go do it for post as well. If I have the employees, say if I have the accounts and it has the get method, I can do the same for employee collection. I can create a example reference and give it some other name or include, and it will work, right? So any other question for employee I mean resource type? Any confusion why we use resource type? So resource type we can use for responses, you can use for trades, anything to reduce the code, have it somewhere, centrally and use it then your root file.
Hello.
Yeah.
Want to use that same resource and put method, that
Mhm.
time we have to create again a new resource in that file.
That's good. That's a good question. What you can do is you have defined a get method here, right? You defined a patch, put, delete, and everything, right? But since you might have another question, you can define it in a single file itself. But when you are, including it here in say your any other resource, but you only want to use a couple of methods, get or put, but you have defined 5 methods, it will be giving you an error because it will saying, hey, you have defined 5 methods, but you're using only two. That is not possible. So for that, what you can do is you can come here and make it optional, right? You can make it optional by using this keyword question mark. So you define 10 methods or 5 methods and you use only two out of it. Okay. Is
Okay.
that answer?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Any other question for resource types?
Yeah, I have a question. Is it necessary to enter method name in resource type file?
So if we are using, so like this make most sense, right? When you are dealing with the multiple, you know, multiple methods itself, like explain get, post, port, man, and you can make it all the question marks, right? And this is not necessary. Like what you can do is if you want to have only resources responses, you can have that. So only for the
Okay.
response itself. If you want to have only for trades, like we did here, right? Where was it? Trades, only the client ID, client secret. You can create a kind of resource type out of it. You can use it.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
All right. I think a last is remaining. Okay. Okay. So next one is library. What I'll do is I'll just mention it. This library is very simple to understand. I won't be showing it doing it hands-on. Okay, so what does it mean is for library, what you can do is, so what is the exactly library in normal layman terms? You go to a library, you have the book library, like books library. You can go and check out for books, non-fiction, fiction books, your comics books and everything. So it's kind of collection of all your fragments at one place, right? For your company says, your client says, hey, I want a RAML library where I have all the reusable codes. For resource type, trade, security schemes, I want to have all the security schemes mentioned in one single place itself, right? All the kind of trades, client ID, client secret required, your get put responses, your query parameters, where I can make it dynamic, your resources types. I want to have all that at a single place. What you can do is you can come up with a library, right? And how can you create that? just go to this one. I mean, you can create it as a fragment, right? If your company wants it to put on onto a endpoint exchange, what you can do is you can create a fragment and use it each and everywhere, not just this employee API, but A to Z, all the APIs, right? So, do you understand what exactly a library? Any questions? Like theoretically, I can define, like I defined, say, resource type here. I define security schemes. I define traits. But I can put all these things. Excuse me. I can put all these things. I can put all these things inside a single file called library. So let me go and say, I'll say, go and click on library and say custom library. Okay. What I can do is I can define, I can put each and everything here. Sorry. I can have my data types. I can have my data types. I can have my this. And if I want to use, I can use it using, include it using uses um, keyword, right? We have this uses keyword. You can do it. You can just name anything, custom library, or say just custom libraries for something and include it. Okay. You can include it here. Any question for this library? I think I can give this you as a homework, so you can go ahead and define how library would look like. It's just putting each and everything in a single place and using it wherever you want to in your root file.
Yeah, so one of the example of the library can be like if you want to define a multiple data types, right? So
Yeah.
in data type you cannot define a multiple data type. You can define the data type of one type, right?
Mm.
But with a library you can define the multiple data type, and also like one data type can refer the other data type within the library. So yeah, so you can take that advantage with the library basically. So like you, whenever you have a requirement, like you want to define, you want to specify a multiple data types, so you go with library basically. Yeah.
Yep. Any questions? I guess you can go ahead and check for this library. How does it work? It was a nice theoretical explanation that we just provided. Okay. And libraries are basically very useful when you have all your reusable components at a single place. Excuse me. So last one which is remaining is fragments. So this is something which we did it already, right? And how, I'll tell. So these are all kind of fragments. We created a data type, right? That is a fragment. This data type source, it's a fragment. We created examples in a JSON format. If we would have created a example in .raml format, it would have been a what do you say? Fragment. The resource type, this particular resource type is fragment, right? So what are the fragments? The fragments are basically we all created each and everything in this particular employee API itself, right? You might say, hey, you created this client ID required details and as a trait, right? This is very helpful, but I want to use it in some other API as well. From here, I cannot use it. What I can do is like I just copy paste, create it again in this particular next ABC API, but I want to use it this particular trait and my all the APIs, and I want it to put it somewhere. I mean, centrally located place in my AnyPoint um, ecosystem. So first of all, you created all this. Next one is you publish it, right? Publish it to Exchange. In last meetup, we explained what is Exchange. Exchange is kind of internal repository to yourself where you can have all your assets deployed and published, right? You can have this API specification published. You can have one of the single of the fragments published, correct? So just go and click on publish. It will just spin up. You need to give a asset version. I'm giving 1.01. Okay. API version would be automatically there. Just click on publish to Exchange. So it says you have publish unreferenced files, right? Because I had this custom library, but it's not referring to somewhere, right? Because we did not create it. So I'm just saying I do not want to include it. Just publish. Okay. So once it is published, you can see it on your Exchange, right? The next one was fragment. What exactly is a fragment? I explained, right? You wanted to use a trait. I'll show you that as well. One second. Okay, this is done. I'll say okay. Let me go back to the design center where I can create a new fragment for you, right? When you click on create new, excuse me, you see new fragment, right? It says composable snippets that can easily be reused across multiple APIs. See, you give a name to a fragment, and you can choose what you want to be. Trait, resource type, libraries, examples, security schemes, data type, library, right? We created a trait for client ID. I just say client ID trait or something, or create fragment, right? So this will be my single piece of usable component that I can publish and use it, right? And how we can use it. So you create this one, and you give the same name which you did, right? Like headers, you had this client ID and client secret. You did all, okay. Required true, type string. Now this is done, and you just publish it. Okay, you publish this trait, client ID trait. It will be published. Okay, now you have published this. You had published this one, right? Employee API on an exchange. You can see all the endpoints, get post, security details, your types, right? This is your data type that you created, and I mean, you can. This is your exchange where you see this API. You all the endpoints you can define. You can add it. You can write. You can create the documentation here itself, right? Excuse me. And you can do all of this. And we actually published your trait as well. So let me show you how it works. We published our employee API as REST API. REST API means our API specification. So that's why it shows as a REST API. And we created client ID trait as a spec fragment. Now we can use it anywhere we want, right? So I think you can take away two tasks for you. One is how you can use a fragment in your API specification as a dependency from Exchange. Another is how you create a library and use it in your RAML specification. These two tasks you can complete. Okay. Any questions? I guess we are done. Next one is Q&A.
Uh,
Any questions?
Hello, sir. I'm Api.
Yeah.
And sir, I just want to ask, like, what are the naming convention or the standard convention advices is while designing RAM?
Yeah, so whatever I just did, right? So like I followed naming conventions itself. So you can, while designing the RAML, whatever we just did, I followed almost each and everything by the standard itself. And we have, I mean, you will find MuleSoft blogs, probably Jitendra might have written it. You will find the blogs on the naming conventions too. So like when you're dealing with the RAML, when you're dealing API specification or implementation, what should be your naming conventions for that?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Any other question?
Just one thing. Just want to be a little bit more clear. So I understand this is for an example at the sample purpose, but if you can share that trait again for 1 minute.
Acha, sure. You're asking me to share just now, right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This one?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
So inside the trait, we have basically, okay, can't we see that example? Yeah. So here you have given client ID, but basically in our employee REST API, right?
Mm,
So there we have given both client ID and client secret,
right, right.
and we have mentioned required as true for both of them,
Correct.
right? So just wanted to understand conceptually,
Hmm.
is it a better way to define, because this is client ID and client secret, so
Hmm.
it is better to define it inside the security schema, maybe named it as client ID enforcement.
Yeah, yes, definitely. It's a better way. It's a standard way of doing the security schemes, right? But whenever you're dealing it with actual policies of the API, right? So first of all, when you're doing the client adding client secret only, because when you go to the API manager section and you have this client adding client secret, right? So MuleSoft will ask you to have this particular trait to be placed inside your code as client adding client secret for the with the trait itself, right? So it basically, yeah. So if you're working with any of the security mechanisms, it's best standard to work with security schemes itself.
Correct. So, why MuleSoft recommended to put it as a trait instead of a security schema?
So because you are using client adding client secret, right, which is again enforced by API policy, and all the API gateway and API managers comes in the picture, right?
Correct.
So they give you they doesn't, I mean, they give you this option, right? So but they doesn't mandate that you should only use it as a trait. So they
Okay.
say you can copy and paste this particular code into your RAML to enforce this client adding client secret as a header.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. But just,
So
just, just.
that was for just quick reference.
Okay.
Nothing is like it's kind of you should only go with this, right? That's
No, no.
just a
But if
quick
it is
reference.
recommended by MuleSoft, they should actually recommend the best way, right? The best way should be via the security schema, right?
Um, First of all, I think there isn't, best way which will be recommended by any of the vendors, right? What they do is like, since it has been very standard practice. So like if you're dealing with security, we should go with the security mechanism. Traits are something. Traits are basically you can do each and every kind of thing in traits itself. You can do all the security part. You can put the responses. You can define your resource types. You can have some traits defining resource types and all way that. So it's like whatever suits you best, you should be done.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, no problem. Any questions? I guess we'll be closing in next 10 minutes. We have a quiz to go.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Nitish, for the great session and detailed session on the RAML. So it was a great session. So, so guys, I will encourage everyone to like start the camera. I will just stop the recording also.
Excuse me.